Life in the low country has a way of slowing things down until they either ferment or decay. That night, sitting in a peeling vinyl booth at a forgotten roadside diner, with Rowan, my stepson, the tension that had been building inside me for a year finally felt ready to crack the foundations. My husband, Grant, had been working on a massive architectural project in Atlanta, his calls growing shorter, his presence in our life shrinking to a voice on the phone that always sounded tired and far away. I missed him, or at least I missed the man he used to be. But it wasn't just the distance. It was the suffocating silence, the slow-motion vanishing act, the way he'd stopped seeing me. So, when I'd asked Rowan to drive me to Atlanta for a surprise visit, I had no idea that one simple road trip would become the threshold I was fated to cross, leaving my old life behind on the other side. Welcome to Heartstrings and Scars, where we unravel the untold stories of love, betrayal, and the life-changing lessons they leave behind. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join our growing community. We promise you stories that will make you reflect, question, and maybe even see yourself in the characters we share. Let me take you back to where it began. That morning, I caught my reflection in the gilded, slightly foxed mirror in the hallway. In the sun-drenched kitchen, Rowan was leaning against the marble countertop, nursing a cup of coffee. He had a languid, easy charm that was entirely his own. "You're heading back to UVA in the fall," I said, trying for a lightness I didn't feel. "And you still drive that vintage Bronco like you're trying to outrun a hurricane." He gave me that slow, lopsided grin that always managed to be both endearing and infuriating. "Come on, Adeline. Take a risk. Let me get you to Dad." "Only if you promise to use a turn signal," I countered. "Drive first. We'll negotiate your questionable life choices later." 2 hours into the trip, the sun was a merciless, white disk in the sky. We were on a stretch of forgotten highway, flanked by endless miles of marshland and ancient live oaks draped in Spanish moss. I was scrolling aimlessly through my phone in the passenger seat while Rowan hummed along to some melancholic, folksy band, the music weaving through the thick, humid air. He had a way of filling the silence, a playful energy that got under your skin. Then a violent shudder, a loud bang from under the hood, and the engine died with a final, wheezing gasp. Rowan wrestled the Bronco to the shoulder, cursing under his breath. "Well, hell." "Seriously?" I looked up from my phone, the irritation immediate and sharp. The next 2 hours were a sweltering nightmare of non-existent cell signal and the oppressive, buzzing drone of cicadas. We gave up. The only sign of life for miles was a faded sign for the Palmetto Pines Motor Lodge, an establishment that looked like it had been forgotten by time itself. At the front desk, a skeletal man with a face like worn leather barely looked up from his newspaper as Rowan negotiated a room. I stood by the door, arms crossed, the sweat trickling down my spine, feeling a rising tide of panic. Grant is going to kill me, I thought, but another, more dangerous thought surfaced right behind it. Why do I even care? When Rowan opened the door to our room, any sliver of hope I had dissolved into the stale, mildew-scented air. One bed with a faded chenille spread, one lamp with a crooked shade, one small, grimy window overlooking a gravel lot. "This is it," I said, my voice flat. Rowan laughed, a genuine, easy sound that grated on my raw nerves. "What, were you expecting a suite at the sanctuary?" I shot him a look. "Remind me to revoke your travel planning privileges." But beneath the sarcasm, I felt an unwelcome softening. He had a way of making light of disasters that I both envied and resented. "This heat is suffocating," I muttered, fanning myself with my hand. "I need a shower." "Knock yourself out, Adeline," he said, tossing his duffel bag onto the bed, as if he belonged there. "Make yourself at home in your new kingdom." I retreated to the bathroom, the door clicking shut behind me. In the mirror, my face was flushed, my eyes wild. "You are 42 years old," I told myself sternly. "He is 22. Stop this." I turned the shower on, the pipes groaning in protest, and let the lukewarm water sluice over me. I tried to wash the tension away, but my mind kept circling back. He's Grant's son. He's family. But Rowan wasn't a boy anymore. He was tall and lean, with a playful fire in his eyes and a quiet, magnetic confidence that felt like a lifeline in the lonely ocean my life had become. Back in the room, the air was still thick and hot. I pulled on a loose linen dress, the fabric a whisper against my skin, and decided to escape to the motel's diner. I needed space. I needed to breathe air that wasn't charged with unspoken things. The diner was a study in beige vinyl and quiet desperation. I ordered a salad I didn't want and a glass of cheap white wine, hoping the bitterness would ground me. But my thoughts were not in that diner. They were upstairs, in that room, with him. Every time an image of Rowan flashed in my mind, his easy smile, the way his dark hair fell across his forehead, I felt a sharp, electric twist in my gut. I opened our door and froze. Rowan was asleep on the bed, fresh from his own shower. He was wearing a thin, white hotel robe, tied loosely at the waist. His damp hair was tousled, and a soft smile played on his lips. The robe had fallen open, exposing the lean, muscular expanse of his chest, the smooth skin rising and falling with each slow, even breath. The careful walls I had built around my heart crumbled to dust. I stood there, rooted to the spot, unable to move, unable to breathe. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic, desperate drumbeat. "Adeline, what the hell are you doing?" My mind screamed, but it was too late. The moment had already sunk its teeth into me. I closed the door softly behind me, the click echoing in the sudden, charged silence. That single sound felt like a point of no return. He lay there, a study in casual indifference, but it felt like a deliberate performance. The robe had slipped further, revealing the sharp line of his hip, a sight that should have sent me running. It should have jolted me back to the cold, hard reality of who we were. But I didn't move. I just stood there, my gaze tracing the hollow of his throat, the line of his collarbone, trying to understand the wildfire he'd ignited inside me. I took a step forward, my sandals silent on the threadbare carpet. The room was small, but it felt like crossing a vast, dangerous chasm. "Adeline, what are you doing?" I sat on the very edge of the bed, careful not to disturb the mattress, my posture rigid. He shifted, his head rolling to the side. Then his eyes fluttered open, dark, clear, and utterly awake. We locked eyes. For a long, breathless moment, neither of us spoke. It was as if we were both trying to determine if this was a dream, or if the treacherous thought that had taken root in my mind had also found a home in his. "You're back," he said, his voice a low, gravelly whisper. Yeah, my own voice was thin, unsteady. "Didn't want to wake you." He sat up slowly, the robe parting further, and I forced my eyes to stay on his. I wasn't really asleep. The silence that followed was hotter and heavier than the humid night air. His gaze swept over my face, gentle and searching before dropping lower, lingering for a fraction of a second. I felt a hot blush creep up my neck. I stood abruptly and crossed to the lone armchair in the corner, needing the illusion of distance. My hands clenched the worn fabric of the armrests, trying to anchor myself. Rowan watched me, then did something that sent a fresh jolt through my system. He stood, the robe falling completely open for a breathtaking instant before he cinched it shut. He moved to the dresser with a slow, deliberate grace, pulling out a pair of shorts. He knew I was watching. Every movement felt intentional. He slipped on the shorts, and then, instead of returning to the bed, he came to the armchair opposite mine. We were only a few feet apart, close enough to feel the radiant heat from each other's skin. "You okay?" he asked, his voice soft, uncertain. I managed a nod, but it was a lie. "I don't know what's happening," I admitted, my eyes fixed on the space between us. "But this isn't normal." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Maybe normal is overrated." A shaky, bitter laugh escaped me. "You have no idea how dangerous that sounds." "Then why are you still here?" His question hit me with the force of a physical blow. I looked up, and this time I didn't look away. "Because," I said, the words tumbling out before I could stop them, "I don't want to be alone tonight." Rowan didn't flinch. He just held my gaze, his expression one of profound understanding. "I've felt something," he said slowly. "For a while. I never knew if you noticed." Noticed? Dear God. The lingering glances. The way he always found a reason to be near when Grant was gone. I had dismissed it all as youthful charm, or worse, my own lonely imagination. But here, in the suffocating intimacy of this room, I knew better. "You're Grant's son," I whispered, the words a last, desperate defense. "This is wrong." Rowan leaned back, letting the word hang in the air between us. "Maybe it's wrong," he said, his voice dropping even lower. "But it doesn't feel like it." My hands were trembling. He stood up slowly and walked back to the dresser, turning his back to me. "I can sleep on the floor," he offered quietly, "if that makes it easier." I shook my head. "Don't be ridiculous." He turned, his face unreadable in the dim light. "Then what do you want, Adeline?" The question hung there, a live wire. I had no answer. All I knew was that every part of me that had gone numb, every lonely night and every unanswered prayer for connection, was screaming to be seen, to be touched, to feel something real again. Rowan took one slow step toward me, then another. He didn't reach for me. He just held my eyes and said, "Whatever happens tonight, you're not alone." And somehow, those words broke me open. The kiss wasn't wild or reckless. It was a slow, deliberate collision, a mutual surrender. It was the taste of wanting and being wanted, of crossing a line we both knew we could never uncross. His hands found my waist, pulling me closer until I was standing between his knees. My fingers tangled in his hair, and the world outside that dingy motel room, my husband, my life, my carefully constructed reality, ceased to exist. When we finally pulled away, my head was spinning. He searched my eyes, looking for regret. He found none. He stood, lacing his fingers through mine, and led me back to the bed. In the dim light, his face was all sharp angles and soft shadows, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel guilt. I felt chosen, and it terrified me how badly I wanted him, too. Lying side by side, our breath mingling in the silence, I whispered, "What happens now?" Rowan turned to me, his eyes dark and serious. "I don't want this to be a one-night thing." The morning sun sliced through the thin curtains, and reality returned with a brutal, sickening lurch. His arm was draped over my waist, warm and possessive. I lay perfectly still, staring at the water-stained ceiling. What had we done? He stirred, murmuring a sleepy morning, his breath a warm caress against my neck. How do you say good morning to the man who has just helped you detonate your entire life? I sat up, pulling the sheet around me like armor. Rowan blinked in the sudden light, a faint smile on his lips. "You okay?" "I don't know," I whispered. He sat up, his expression clear of any regret, which only made it worse. "I know this changes things." The mechanic called. The Bronco was fixed. As I stood in the bathroom, staring at the stranger in the mirror, Rowan's voice came from the doorway. "We can head out. We need to pick up Grant, remember?" The name landed like a stone in a quiet pool. Grant. My husband. Rowan's father. The ride to Atlanta was a silent torture chamber. I sat staring out the window, the world a blur. He glanced over once. I meant what I said last night. Adeline. It's messy, I know. But I've never felt this way. His honesty was a blade twisting in my gut. It would have been easier if this was just a sordid mistake. We found Grant waiting on a curb, looking older and more tired than I remembered. He climbed into the back, giving me a quick, passionless kiss on the cheek. Hey, babe, you look tired. Didn't sleep well, I said, the understatement of the century. He clapped Rowan on the shoulder. Thanks for the lift, son. No problem, Rowan said, his eyes meeting mine in the rearview mirror. Grant leaned back, oblivious. Man, it's good to be heading home. I missed you both. My heart constricted. He had no idea. As we pulled back onto the highway, heading toward the life I had just irrevocably fractured, I knew there was